Hey, Julia, thanks so much. We just left the courtroom, and I have with me one of those deliberating jurors who just helped render the verdict against Dawan Ferguson. This is Evan Harris, and I wanted to speak with her about her experience as a juror. First of all, thank you so much, Evan, for being with us here on Court TV.
You're welcome.
And I've been watching you taking the evidence all week this week. You were a quite attentive juror. Take us inside that deliberation room and what you guys chatted about and how you reached this guilty verdict.
So we all kind of agreed on a lot of the points that were brought up in the case. There were a few things we kind of disagreed on, but after going back and forth, bringing up things, other things people didn't hear, or, difference of opinion, we ultimately did come to a first-degree murder charge.
Right. It was the first charge you guys were set to consider, but sitting through this trial, looking back on the evidence in the days of the trial, what was your impression and takeaway? When did you immediately feel that he was guilty of murdering his son?
Immediately, I could not say with any certainty that I immediately felt anything, but after speaking to my fellow jurors, I confidently came to the decision that it was first-degree murder. Yes.
Maybe you were one of those on the fence in the deliberation room?
Yes.
Tell me more about why that was.
There was an element of deliberation or deliberancy, and that's kind of where I was a little on the fence. But eventually, when you come down to it, the lack of medication, the lack of nutrition, those all things are deliberate, and Dawan Ferguson is guilty of murder in the first degree.
It's so interesting to get your perspective because we just never know what the jury is thinking. I can sit there and watch you guys, but who knows? And then you get back to the deliberation room. It didn't take you long to reach this unanimous conclusion. Looking back at the evidence, though, you point to some of the issues of the neglect and lack of feeding, cleanliness. So what was it like to hear some of that difficult testimony?
It was very difficult and a very emotional thing to hear. A lot of us have children ourselves, and to hear with not only what Christian went through, with Lynn Ferguson, who was Connor at the time, went through, is very heartbreaking.
Right. Yeah, what testimony? Would it be Lynn Ferguson's testimony, or who took the stand that really made an impact for you, at least?
For me, the testimony of FBI agent Liza Ludovico.
Yeah, Ludovico.
Yeah, her in particular. The police officers. Lynn Ferguson was a very emotional part of the trial and a lot of the family members, but going through all of that, there's a lot of motive on each side of what happened and who's to blame and everything, but ultimately when you take the family out of it and you get law enforcement involved and they just are here to,
Yeah, for sure. Is there something about the defense that they brought up that made you still be on the fence before you talked to your fellow jurors?
The thing about the medication, how it could have gone on for so long and not caused the death before June 9th. But after on close, when they brought up how much medicine was left after they left the house, that was really striking that, this happened,
Now, when you get back to the deliberation room, because we don't get to see that part of this process, did you guys take an initial vote? I saw the foreperson, young man, who was leading the charge. Take us there, the process that you guys went through.
We kind of went about, we brought up some of the issues we were having with the case, that some of the questions we had, because like I said, not everyone got everything or understood everything, so we kind of went about what our problems were in conjunction with the case, and then we kind of went over the charges and went down the list of what we believed.
What was the split number-wise? There's 12 of you. How many were for guilty or how many were for not guilty?
So there were 3 separate degrees or charges we could. So we went down from murder 1 to murder 2. We kind of stopped at murder 2, and after we deliberated more, we all unanimously went for murder 1.
Okay. How many were kind of on your camp undecided?
It was just me.
Just you? You were the holdout? Were they all guilty but you?
Yes.
It didn't take much to convince you. You said it because of the lack of care, medication really put you over the edge.
Yes.
Go ahead, I'll let you finish.
There was just one juror who was able to explain it in its entirety to me a little better.
What did they explain to you?
Exactly what the element of deliberation was. Like, the lack of care was a deliberate act, basically.
Yeah. And that, in culmination, caused the death of... Right, which totally is what the prosecutor argued.
Right.
Now, if Dawan Ferguson, the defendant, had taken the stand and testified, would that have made a difference to you at all?
No.
Why not?
It's kind of self-serving. Of course, he's going to say he didn't do it, and that's why we're here, because he's maintained that he has not done these things. But that kind of thing isn't really evidence, or not. Him not testifying has really nothing to do with any of that.
Right. It wouldn't have mattered either way. You kind of got his story of the carjacking. You watched him during the testimony. Anything stand out to you about Dawan Ferguson, the defendant?
He got really agitated with his daughter being on the stand. It seemed to really rile him up. It was one of the only few times I actually saw him, give notes to his attorney and say things to them, basically.
Right. Definitely, she called him the sperm donor, not even...
Yes, not even her father, her sperm donor.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he seemed very agitated with her being there. And then the witness, I can't remember because she changed her name.
Yes, Santana Contreras.
Yes, Santana Contreras. She was just very heartbroken, scared to death to be there. Whatever conversation they had, it's gone with her this far. It's been 19 years, and she was shaking upon walking into the courtroom. Sure. So,
Talk about being 19 years. Did that affect you guys' decision at all, the time that passed?
Yes, particularly with the children around that time. There was a couple of children who were interviewed around that time, and that was kind of some of the things we went back and forth on, whether the children are credible as far as them being children and it being 19 years later, and a lot of things that you might have been manipulated into thinking because you're a child. There's a lot of drama going on with both families, it seems. And then there was the other child that was in a day camp or something.
Right, Dion Dupree. Yeah, did you believe him at all?
No, no, it didn't seem like. I'm not sure why they even talked to him in the first place, but that was my only thing, is like, how did they come to talk to him in the first place? But other than that, I don't think I could believe Dawan Dupree. But there was also some things with Lynn Ferguson that kind of gave me pause as well. But
like what? Know that her story had changed over the years.
Yes, that kind of thing, and being recorded by her mother, and her mother saying certain things to the press, and Lynn Ferguson saying that she saw those things in the press and things like that. So it's like those kind of things, I took it with a grain of salt, but I do believe her overall. It's just the one thing about taking him into the other room, there was a struggle. I'm not sure about that, like 100%, but without all of that, the medication, the nutrition were being neglected, and obviously Christian Ferguson isn't alive today. So, and that is the only thing that could have happened, because the carjacking story was ridiculous. And
I was going to ask you about that.
Yes.
Did you guys find that plausible in any way?
I personally did. None of my jurors really did, but I personally absolutely did not, because the car is around the corner from someone else. You got a keys to another car, and it's just right around the corner. These car thieves just happen to take it right around the corner to where this other car is. Okay.
And then the child wasn't in there.
Yeah, and the child, but they'll take your car and then they'll kidnap a child. That isn't That doesn't make any sense
Right, that
to
was
me.
one of those key arguments of the prosecution. Let's talk about Christian Ferguson. You guys saw photos of him around this time, home video of him, and some difficult photos, and maybe some of the evidence, the urine-soaked sheets and clothing. What was that like to see those difficult images?
That was the hardest part for me because I have just one boy, and he's a little older than Christian would have been at the time, but to think of my own child strapped to a bed, not being fed, it tore me apart. It wasn't part of my consideration because it wasn't allowed, but now thinking about it, that's a difficult thing to think of, and I hope Theta, I hope that her and Lynn Ferguson really are able to heal now from this.
Absolutely. Anything you want to say to Theta and the victim's family or to the defendant, Dawan Ferguson?
I spoke to Lynn Ferguson right before I left, and I just told her I hope she heals from this. I hope this brings her some closure. I hope this brings Theta some closure and Christian's entire family. I hope they can now put this to rest. It's been 19 years, and this has been a sad situation.
It really has. Anything to the defendant, Dawan Ferguson? Now he'll spend the rest of his life behind bars. Is that justice?
That is justice. When you do that to a child, that is justice. Even without the murder, Dawan Ferguson is a monster. And that goes without being said. Dawan Ferguson is a monster.
One last question for you. People kept speculating there's no body, right? No body ever found. Did that have any consideration in that deliberation room?
No. I don't think we were allowed to consider that. So, no. We did talk about it after our verdict was read out, after we went back waiting on the sentencing. We did talk about that, but that's not absolutely, obviously, without the medication and Christian Ferguson is gone, he is no longer with us. He hasn't been with us for 19 years, actually. So, I mean, wherever he is, and there was some things I found out about Dawan Ferguson after the fact, like after the verdict, that...
What did you find out?
He was a bodyguard for Bob McCullough or somebody. I'm like, we didn't go into it a lot, but I remember that name kind of from back then. I have to look into who he is, but it sounded like he was a big deal.
Gotcha. Anything else that you'd like to say about this process, being a juror, doing your duty, what you heard this week, or the deliberations,
Yes. If you don't believe that this is a part of something you should be doing it. If you don't like what's happening in the court systems, get involved. Register to vote. Get involved in voting, in jury duty. Get involved with these processes. You can't complain about them if you don't get involved with them.
Wise words. A great way to end. Thank you so much, Evan Harris. I'm going to give a pause, though, from our anchor, Julia Janae. Julia, do you have any questions for this? Now, Holt, we know she was the holdout juror for a little bit, but finally came over to the conviction side. Any questions, JJ?
Wow, Chanley, what an incredible interview. What an incredible juror. This is such a rare instance to hear her insights. I appreciate you asking the question about what it was like being there in the courtroom and seeing these images. Please thank her for her service for me, but also can she just tell me what her, the most important witness she feels like testified in terms of this carjacking? I know she said she didn't feel like Dupree was telling the truth, but was there anything about the defense's case that she felt could have been credible and might have come up in that deliberation room?
Sure. So our anchor, Julia Janae, thanks you for your jury service and your jury duty. And also ask about, was there anything in the defense case that you found credible as far as their theory, the carjacking theory? You didn't believe Deon Dupree, but what was, I guess, maybe the best part or best piece of evidence they did have, if any?
I guess now that I've heard the whole case, the best time was their best defense, that some of the eyewitnesses, and that there was a lot of people and Christians who were mandated reporters and did not report
That's a great point, yeah.
the neglect that was happening. That's about their best evidence that it has been a long time, and Dawan Ferguson has gotten away with this for such a long time,
Right.
and that there was a lot of people, and a lot of people failed Christian Ferguson, but that was about it.
Yeah, but you guys did not fail him, and you're right. One of their main arguments, he had all these mandated reporters along the way, and they didn't report it. So that's a great answer. I'll send it back to you, JJ.
Chanley Painter out in St. Louis, Missouri. Chanley, thank you so much. While I have you, I just want to ask you the question just to clarify for our viewers.
Sure.
What happens next? We heard something about a penalty phase, sentencing. The jury obviously now has been released fully.
That's right, jury released fully because there's only one sentence for Dawan Ferguson now that he's convicted of the top count of first-degree murder. That's life without parole. However, the judge did give a little more time for Jamia Steele to file some post-verdict motions on behalf of her client. So we're still waiting on a formal sentencing date, but that is what is next for Dawan Ferguson. And inside that courtroom during that verdict, Julie, I mean, the family of Christian Ferguson, Theda, Lynn Ferguson, the two full rows just gasping, sobbing, melting into each other. You could just tell this is what they spent 19 years waiting to hear.
Chanley Painter, thank you for your incredible coverage there on the ground in St. Louis and for that incredible interview with the juror. We'll check back in with you a little later.